you define negotiation?
Good question, because I think one of the problems with the word negotiation is that we hear it and we kind of go, ugh, no, I don't want to do it. So it's better to think of it as a discussion. A negotiation is discussion between yourself and another person to reach an agreement about something.
Yeah, I think when you talked about that feeling, I think that discomfort is what keeps a lot of people from negotiating.
Exactly. We get all squirmy and scared, and then we just think, oh, it's better to not ask for anything at all. I'm just going to say, yes, thank you, and move on.
So why do you think people get so uncomfortable when it comes to negotiating something that would obviously benefit them?
I think it's sort of ingrained that negotiation has to be a competition or that we're going against someone. So we
Mm.
sort of psych ourselves up to think that it's going to be a battle. And the minute you're going to put yourself into a risky situation or you think you're going to have to put on a different personality and be mean about something, that really freaks a lot of us out and you run away from it.
Right, because that seems like it's going against your nature.
Exactly.
I don't like being this person uh, who's asking for
Exactly.
something, and I don't even know how the other person is going to react.
Yeah, we can get really scared of the response we're going to get. So it's just easier to not ask for something than to risk hearing that no.
Yeah. And what else do you think you're risking when you don't ask for what you want?
A lot of the times, a company might have certain bands for salary that as a new employee, their hands are tied with what they could offer you financially, but they may be able to throw in all sorts of other incentives. I mean, you can even think outside of the corporation itself, and maybe they're willing to pay for you to be part of a professional organization or to get an extra certificate in training. You can really broaden the scope of what becomes your sort of portfolio of compensation. And that's where you can get really creative and really flexible with your employer.
Right, because I think when you talk about training and development, and you take that again, that long-term view, building your network even, who is it that this person can potentially introduce me to? All of those things are considerations when you're taking a job or when you're considering, accepting an offer.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's so many factors to think about. And I think the other thing is like in terms of the planning, how would you prepare for having this conversation?
I think doing your research is important, especially understanding the market you're in.
Hmm.
If you've, for example, been going to school in one city but are looking for jobs in another city, there could be a very different climate there when it comes to what employers pay and what the cost of living is.
Right.
So there are some online resources for that, and a lot of career centers can help you figure out what your guidelines would be. But the best way is to actually find people who work in a similar company or
Hmm.
at that actual company and build relationships with them to see if they can give you further guidance.
Hmm. So in terms of what questions would you ask someone in that company if you were considering negotiating?
If you had a professional friendship with someone in that company, you wouldn't want to lead with, so how much do you get paid?
You never asked that question.
People aren't going to want to answer that.
Uh-huh.
But if you ask them for a ballpark, say, oh, I'm thinking, I'm getting offered about $50,000.
Hmm.
Does that sound about right?
Hmm.
And then that person's reaction, their facial expression should tell you right away if you're being lowballed or if that's an actually solid offer.
Right. Um,
And we'll also be able to help you identify different opportunities within that organization for the professional development, the networking, what the work life balance is like at a lot of the places. Insider scoop.
yeah, and I mean, I like that you also said to ask them for a range. So when negotiating, do you recommend having figures? Say if you're getting an offer for 60,000 and you want 80,000, should you go in and say I want 80,000, or should you provide a range?
I think it's better to provide an actual figure.
Hmm.
If you provide a range and you say, oh, anywhere between 60 and 80, they're going to offer you 60
Okay.
because that's their best interest.
Okay.
But if you can ask for something towards the higher end, but not ridiculously higher. You wouldn't go in asking for, $250,000 if that was way outside their ballpark.
Right.
But aim towards the higher end,
Mm-hmm.
but also prepare yourself with a range of other items you would want to ask for. Because what you're really looking to do is have a conversation about your salary, not just have a yes or no type answer from them.
Right, right. And remembering it's not me against them. We're trying to reach mutually agreeable point here.
Exactly. Exactly. If
That's
they're making
beneficial.
you a job offer, you're already at the point you've sold them on your skills. And now what you're doing in this conversation is just reinforcing the value that you're bringing to their organization.
Right. So at what point do you walk away?
That's a tough one.
Hmm.
Some of it will depend on just on your personal circumstances. If you really, 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 really need this particular job,
Right.
or if you've got some other options.
Hmm.
But I would definitely say the minute you have an employer who is basically saying, look, take this or get out, and they're not answering questions, they're not showing any flexibility at all on anything, financial or otherwise, that's a good indicator that they're not going to be very flexible with you once you're an employee.
Right. Uh-huh.
So why would you really want to sign up?
Yeah. And I think
So
also know your options, right, before going in. Like if this doesn't work out, what would I do?
exactly. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd all have 3 or 4 different offers
Yes.
that we could play around
Uh-huh.
with. Reality, we might not. We might only have that one. But you're definitely right. Knowing what your plan B is,
Hmm.
knowing what else is out there, and knowing what's happening again in your market, that maybe waiting 6 months could land you a really amazing job. So it's worth holding off.
So if you do have multiple offers, how do you use those offers to negotiate?
That's a really great question. I like that. Um, the super aggressive way of doing it is what we would call in negotiation ratcheting. So you'd ratchet up one against the other,
Hmm.
but that cannot be seen as very polite. It is quite aggressive. So I think the best way to do it for yourself is to review the multiple offers, do a comparison between them, both financial and non financial.
Hmm.
And then when you're having a discussion with one of the employers, to not refer to a specific company as, oh, well, so and so gave me XYZ,
Right.
but to say, based on the research I've been doing, based on the other opportunities I'm exploring,
Hmm.
because you're being very open,
Right.
the opportunities I'm exploring, can we discuss how we can improve blank, whether it's pay or vacation or professional development? Lead them to the category of where you need to have a bit of a sweeter deal.
Oh, interesting. And I think should you ever give someone an ultimatum?
That's tough. That's just like in a relationship. You give the ultimatum. I think you can give an ultimatum if you are fully prepared that they will say no and
Hmm.
that you will have to take the other option.
Okay.
I would not bluff
Hmm.
because people will call you on it.
Right. Right.
So
And
if you say,
I've had cases, for example, where students would come in and they say, I don't yet have an offer from another company, but it seems that it's likely.
hmm,
And then they go and they tell another company, well, you need to hurry up a little because I have another offer. Um, what do you think about that approach?
if you express that tactfully, if you communicate, I would recommend not sending an email or putting that in writing. I would have a phone call with them or meet them face to face to
Mhm.
discuss it. It's okay to give them a general sense of what your timeline
Right.
is, but only if you're reasonably certain that they could just say no and you would still be okay either
Mhm.
waiting for the other offer or taking the other offer.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, I always tell students never ever lie. I think you
Yeah.
can actually say I'm interviewing with multiple companies right now, and let them know what's going on. And it never hurts to tell the truth and keep the other person informed of what's going on.
Exactly. And I mean, it's also good for you when you're reviewing different job offers. It's nice for other people to know at those companies that there's other interest in you.
Yes.
So I wouldn't lie about having other interest, but no, they need to know that you've got three other people knocking at your door,
Hmm.
because that would be an incentive for them to seal the deal.
Yes, and bring you in for that. If there's a final interview, bring you into the office and make sure that you have an offer in a timely manner, so that you can
Exactly.
make the best decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and what other tips do you have in terms of some do's and don'ts when someone is negotiating a job offer?
The first one would really be try to broaden your view away from just financial. It can be really easy to get stuck in that. So take a broader view. A good exercise to do with that is to picture what you want your future month of work to look like with that company. Where do you want to be working? Do you need remote access? Do you want to be able to take more holidays? Do you want to have a gym membership?
Hmm.
Sort of picture what you want your life to be like, and then every single one of those elements will play into your
Right.
negotiation. The other tip I have that I just touched on was to be careful how you're communicating. Sending an email can be very efficient,
Hmm.
and it can give you the time to reflect on really what you're saying and to put a lot of thought into those words, but it's not conducive to having an active discussion about something.
Hmm.
So if you've received a job offer, sending an email back going, yeah, that's okay, but I'd really like an extra $20,000, the person who reads that might just laugh and delete and not call you back.
Right. Uh-huh.
So especially when you're exploring the territory, when you're looking for flexibility, it's important to either do it in person or over the phone so that you can have real time feedback. And if you accidentally put your foot in your mouth, you can sort of handle that and try to take back time a little.
Right. Uh-huh.
And then the third tip I would have is really to be patient with it.
Hmm.
Especially when we're entering the job market, we are super excited. We're pumped. We want that new job. We want it now. Companies can take a bit more time. I find the larger the organization, the more people get involved, the more approval cycles happen. It's important to be patient
Hmm.
because if you try to rush the result, they could ditch the deal.
Hmm.
Or you could rush it and sure they could give you an offer within the next 3 weeks, but it may not be the best possible offer.
Hmm.
So to realize it's going to take some time, not rush through it. Definitely don't rush through it just because you get scared. You have to learn to be uncomfortable, but it's worth taking the time so that when you do sign that job offer, you know it's the absolute best you could achieve for yourself.
Right, and that way you're happy. And I mean, I think the fact that even if you don't get what you want, at least you've gone to them and you approached them and you've had that conversation rather than always be wondering, you
Could
know.
I? Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember my very first job out of university, finished my undergrad, got offered the job right after graduation, did not negotiate, just took it.
Yes.
And it was only a few years later that I kind of went, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I should have had a discussion about that.
Yeah, after you became a negotiations coach, I'm like, okay,
Exactly.
actually,
Wait a minute.
all of
Yeah,
these
23 year
opportunities
old
I could have
Devon.
negotiated. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. My 23-year-old self really wishes that I had spoken up and said something. And realizing it might only have been a small change from what I ended up accepting, but grown up Devon would
Yeah.
have felt a lot better about that experience.
I remember feeling exactly the same way when I took my job after my MBA, and it was a terrible job market. And the hiring manager asked me how much I wanted, and I said a number, and the look on his face, I'm like, oh crap! I should have probably gone, way higher than that. But of course, I got the offer, For them it was it was great. But yeah, I think in that case there was definitely a lot of room for negotiating, and I think again not just negotiating on the salary, but there were
Mm,
so many other factors at play. So
exactly.
thank you so much, Devin. I think this is really helpful to students and anyone, in fact, looking to
It
negotiate
is.
a job offer because it's often seen as something that's so difficult. And
Exactly.
yeah, and I think you made a great point in saying that they've hired you for the job. They've recognized your value, and I think one of the factors that come into play in this whole when somebody hires you is this whole likability thing, and I think that's what people are always afraid that it will get tarnished, like that image that people have of me, and if I go now and I ask them for more, they'll see me as this terrible person.
Yeah, they'll see you as greedy. Well, a great way to counteract that is to say, look, I really want to work for your company.
Mhm.
I love that you've worked on this project and this project, and I love the culture you've built here, and I want to be a part of that. How can we make that happen?
Right, and we're doing this together. It's not me
There you
against you. It's
exactly.
let's make this work in a way that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah,
And I think when
you
you
got
see when you see negotiating an offer that way, it becomes it doesn't become this uncomfortable conversation that's about me winning and you losing. It's us
it.
both of us winning.
Oh, yeah, love it.
Awesome! I love the reframe. So thank you so much, Devon.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
so if anybody wants to follow you or learn more about what you do, how can they do that?
Well, I blog regularly online at devonsmiley.com, and I'm also on Twitter. I love Twitter. So if they wanted to reach out at Devon M. Smiley.
All right, Devon, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tanuja.
Thanks.